summer approaches, beware the oncoming fragments of silicon.
All right, welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon. I'm your host, Adam. Joining me, as always, are Gollix and Petty. Let us get to what the events of our lives that we have dubbed the news for some reason.
That intro was kind of awesome.
English language escape you there for a minute, homie?
Sure. Anyway, Petty, why don't you start us off this week since you volunteered?
Damn it. Overall, the week's been pretty quiet. Got in touch with DirecTV about canceling the service, and wow, I have not heard any worse low quality begging to try and get me to keep something in years. The best they could offer me was still like $30 more than what we're now paying with Dish Network, and still wanted to try to keep me to stay. I'm like, yeah, no.
Goodbye.
Yeah. And apparently we don't need to send the boxes back anymore. They just want us to recycle them, which, I'll do that after I yank the terabyte hard drive out of the main DVR box.
Your radio minute or something like that.
Huh?
Like a, what are those things called? Smoke detectors?
Mm. Yeah, it's...
They put hard drives in smoke detectors?
Well, make a little nuclear reactor out of TV boxes. Kind of cool.
But yeah, it's one of those things, like, because I actually know what I'm doing, it doesn't really matter what connector it uses. I can just yank it out and just, hey, look, free hard drive. And I can adapt it to whatever I need it to be. One of the joys of having, technical expertise. But yeah, that's a later fun time. I need to find my iFixit kit and rip that thing apart, but and then yeah, we're kind of just waiting on the fiber internet company to let us know when our hookup date is, because I signed up with them. So hopefully it is soon, and then it won't really, we won't see much of improvement on the show front immediately, but like if we need to do multiplayer games, it would be a lot easier for me to host because I'll have a lot bigger upload internet pipe.
I mean, that will come in handy, given, we have problems with the connections.
Yeah, I'll be going from a 20 megabit upload to gigabit upload. His fiber is symmetrical, so woo! So that's going to be fun and, useful for the show in ways. I have been once again working on chiseling away at uploading the MSP stuff on our channel to Mac's channel because I got sidetracked over the break and he had to remind me over last night, and I was like, oh shit, I need to do that. So what episode just went up?
The first one?
No, it's because I had uploaded some already. We just uploaded I just uploaded the Vera Wild of Council of Geeks episode.
Oh.
And I
And
have the season 17, episode 18 inside the studio queued up, ready to go after MSP tonight.
I see.
Because of my limited upload capacity, I can't exactly, host the shows and upload to YouTube.
Right.
But yeah,
I mean,
those will try and come up more regularly.
yeah, I don't know whatever problem Mac has had with transferring stuff from Twitch to YouTube. I never have an issue
It's
there.
because the main uploader is in your name. If you just hit the export button, it would export it to your Fragments YouTube channel.
I mean, before we switched, before the switch.
I don't know. All I know is because of the way the export setup is now, I have to download it.
No,
I think his biggest problem back then was that he just wasn't doing it.
Yeah, I think that's the actual there. No.
But yeah, that's something that's going to be happening. Luckily, we don't have too many episodes. So it's one of those nip it now and don't have to deal with it. I think I sorted out my problem with the PS1 emulator, so theoretically, streaming Digimon World 3 should be a go. I just need to nail Ogre to a wall and find a time when we can start doing that. I mean, I guess if
How
he's
much does Ogre know about Digimon?
A lot.
Huh. It never really came up.
Yeah.
It was on the show. Not like with you two.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so that's moving forward. And then, yeah, just kind of chilling and waiting, enjoying the pool time because it's finally getting warm enough to jump in the pool now. It's supposed to be, I think, 90 tomorrow here, so.
A little early for that, but.
Yeah, granted, May was like mostly all rain when usually that's supposed to be April, so our entire seasons are out of whack here, so hell if I know what's going on. But I guess that's it from my neck of the woods.
All right. Galax, you're up.
Not that much interesting in this end of this end of the woods, neck of the woods. I'm feeling kind of tired, probably largely because the weather's been a bit on the hot and then on and off on rainy side. Let's see. We got our insurance thing updated, and apparently the number of hours that you need to do to get to count as full time for insurance for insurance purposes may have gone down, and if so, I'm going to try to go up to reach that by the end of this month. So we'll see how that goes. I don't talk about my Pathfinder campaign very much, so
anymore.
It's just there's a lot that goes on.
Yeah.
But we had a big thing last time. We finally beat one of the bad guys that's kind of been a problem for like most of the campaign.
Well, and I think like last time you mentioned it, you mentioned you start getting into more like the custom stuff that you guys were doing, like stepping away from like more of the standard issue of that kind of stuff. So like without us being there, it would be hard for us to really relate what's going on.
Yeah. I'm just saying that's kind of the big thing that's going on lately.
Yeah.
Is we've been in a dungeon for the last few weeks, and it's been interesting, but you wouldn't get a lot of it because I haven't been keeping everybody up to date. Although also my friend who is currently unable to go to Pathfinder is thinking about running the next longer campaign that we do, and he's thinking we might try to do it in 2nd edition. So I've also been fooling around with character creation in 2nd edition, and at some point I need to actually read more of the rule books. I know it's similar, but it's not exactly the same.
The current one you're doing is 3rd edition?
First.
Oh, 1st edition.
1st edition Pathfinder, which is based on 3rd edition Dungeons and Dragons.
That's where the connection is.
2nd edition Pathfinder is, and then there's 2nd edition Remaster, technically, but that's still like 90% the same. It's just getting rid of the rest of the stuff that Wizards of the Coast technically owns.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that. Haven't actually been playing that much video games, but a new season of Splatoon 3 has started. Probably the last or second to last season.
Yeah, I was about to say, they should be winding down here shortly, shouldn't they?
Already?
Like,
I mean, it's been, what, 2 years?
My God.
right, but here's the thing to keep in mind, Alex. They haven't announced the Splatoon 4 yet.
They haven't.
So-
They usually keep going for a bit after, like, they stop having new stuff.
Yeah. Maybe that's a thing that gets announced alongside the Switch 2 or whatever.
Yeah, I would not be at all surprised about that, but we'll see how it goes. After all, Nintendo does have a direct coming up this month, I think.
Do they?
Where they won't talk about the Switch successor, but they will talk about some new stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, the rest of the year lineup probably, because it is the summer.
Right.
Yeah. Like,
I do like that Nintendo does it, that it's just the rest of the coming year, not, coming in 2025. I'm like, I don't care.
Well, it's not just Nintendo; it's everyone. Like,
the thing is, people used to do more lead up to it, but then when plans changed, people got mad about it, so they stopped.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is everyone is doing that because it's not E3 season.
That too. Oh yeah. So yeah,
the artist
we'll
formerly
see
known as E3.
Yeah, I did pick up a copy of Paper Mario: Thousand Year Door because I never actually played the original. So hopefully, I will be able to get through that and not get hung up in grinding for various specific badges and stuff, because that's how my brain goes sometimes in RPGs.
I think they eased up a lot on the grindy ones in the remake, from what I've heard.
Well, we'll see. I know it's a good game. I've seen it played. I just haven't actually done it myself.
Right.
And that is what is up with me.
Okay, then. Well, be my go then.
Yep.
Let's see. Yeah. God. Most of my week has been dealing with family because
hopefully in the good way.
I mean, ostensibly, yes. In the sense, I'm like, it's not negative. It's just, my brother's kids are out of school, so like, I mean, they just spent 5 days here.
Ooh.
I'm like, that was draining.
Yeah. As someone who also doesn't like dealing with kids, I can relate.
Like, yeah, like, they're going to be a regular fixture over the summer because, they're out of school now, and they don't have, like, summer camp or anything like that lined up. So, fun times ahead there. Like, putting that aside, got some new equipment the other day.
Oh man.
I think I Well, it's like I mentioned during the Sunday reviews that an old Xbox controller, the A button started to stick, and no matter what I did in terms of cleaning solutions, it would not unstick.
Mm,
Like, which says to me, like, whatever grime or goo is causing that, it's like under the button or something
yeah,
like
and it's
that.
one of
Not
those.
just
It's
like,
not worth ripping it apart just to try and fix it.
yeah, not when I can get a new, and it was, like the third party Xbox controller,
Mm,
the one that only costs like $25 to replace.
yeah, like from PDP or whoever.
Yeah, something like that. Um, which, it's like an Xbox controller, only it has a better D pad.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say it. Like the D pad on this thing is better than the Xbox Series X D pad. Like,
I guess it depends what you're playing, but yeah.
well, it's like obviously the Xbox Series X D pad is better than that thing that they stuck on the Xbox 360 controller.
Yeah. I think
But
my
it's
Xbox controller has like a micro switch to D-pad, which I kind of like.
yeah, that was a very specific Xbox 360 controller.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I have I have an official Xbox Series X controller here as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in fact, I got a new charging wire for this
Is it
because
one
the
of
old one,
the micro USB or Type C ones?
micro USB.
Oh, so
You
you
know,
still have one of the older ones. Yeah, I have one of the Type C ones that they did the button refresh on. That's why it's like,
well, I mean the control.
oh,
Well, yeah, because the controller itself is fine. It's just the wire, you know, was having problems staying into the USB because, um, you know, being yanked down
yeah.
put it out of alignment. So I got a new one of those.
Mm-hmm.
And though I think most relevant for the show, I finally got a isolation shield for the microphone I use.
Oh man.
Yeah, so maybe Mac will stop fucking complaining about that. Like, if this works properly.
Mm-hmm.
The only
Like,
360. Oh, what?
The noise feedback was not really a problem here. It's more, Mac's equipment.
It part
It's that, and it's the fact that he wants to do it through TalkShoe for some reason.
well, and part of his
Mm.
thing is how deep his voice is. It
Uh-huh.
messes with your pickup because your speakers are here. It's coming out through your speakers, and your microphone is hearing it.
Right. Well, it's like hopefully this thing stops that.
Yeah.
That is the intention here. Since
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I guess we find out in a few hours.
Indeed.
So, with that in mind, merrily we shall roll along to the interview portion of the broadcast. And joining us this week is Starr Hazen of Starlab Game.
Uh,
Yeah. So, how are you doing today?
I'm okay. Think I caught that flu that's starting to go around Canada right now.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Like,
Saw on Twitter bird flu was trending, and I'm like, oh, uh-oh.
that's concerning.
I ordered a burger, and I was only able to eat half of it.
Anyway, so how we like to get started is we like to get to know the people behind the games, the studio, and all of that business. And we do that by asking this particular question. What got you interested in video games, both on a personal and a professional level?
42.
Okay, that's the
Okay,
first time somebody's dropped that one on us.
When I was really little, like really, really little, like a little homunculus, my mother still had her NES and Super Nintendo, and got me hooked on them. Specifically Mario 3. I am told that is the first game I ever played when I was 2. And ever since then, the addiction has run deep. It's like Canadians being unable to remove the maple syrup from their blood.
Or was this
You know how
the
they have to
siren
have,
song of Tim Hortons?
Exactly. It's like Canadians having this disease. It's the same thing for gamers, but with games, right? And this Canadian disease, all Canadians have syrup in their veins, and the only way to broke out is to have pancakes every 4 hours.
At
Everyone
least
knows about that.
5% syrup by weight, right?
Yeah, yeah. If it goes over 7, it's the danger zone.
And if you go under 3, the medics are on their way.
Yeah. Oh no, they have like full EpiPens, but full of high quality maple syrup.
Oh my god! Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. Yeah, every Canadian carries a one of those little. It's like one of those water things that you hammer into a tree, and if you wait a minute, water comes out. But instead, it's like syrup, and it doesn't matter if the tree's a maple tree; it can be any tree, and syrup will come out. So it's handy. Oh yeah, yeah. My mom got me into games.
Oh, okay. And continuing on, at what point did you consider building games as a viable option for either career path or a hobby? I'm not sure which, given the subject matter here.
It was right at the start of the pandemic, so before it happened, I really wanted to go into 2D animation, like anime stuff, whatever. And then 3 weeks passed when when COVID first hit, and I was like, "Wow, I kind of hate this." So I haven't done much art since early 2020, and it was around that time that Game Boy Studio had been first launched and stuff. And me being completely obsessed with the Game Boy since I was 10, you know, I kind of figured, oh, this is good. I will make a game, and then I really liked it. And
So, did you make any attempts at gamedom before this? Like any sort of prototypes up to the main event here called Children of Tides?
well, I did. There was a. Sorry, my brain's kind of dead right now. Yeah, I made a game before this one, also in Game Boy Studio. Repugnant Bounty, that one. It was Metroidvania, and it was hell to develop because Game Boy Studio was constantly developing alongside it, so I had to redo stuff over and over again. But yeah, that was the game before this one.
And how did you find working in Game Boy Studio?
Well, at first it was pretty simple. I mean, it was easy to understand. It's just like very simple logic. And the editor for a few years was, and still is now, kind of marketed as a easy beginners game making engine. But I feel like that could not be further from the truth anymore because there are so many plugins that you have to download just to get it working. It's worse than like an N64 emulator. Like it's so tedious, and it's buggy. It's a cool product, but it's just very broken right now. It's hell.
Hmm. I'm like, I don't think that's come up yet. Like, mainly, like we've spoken to quite a few people who are making Game Boy games, and they haven't really remarked on the plugins yet.
Yeah,
That's a
I mean,
recent
like if
thing.
you want something like UI, you need to use a plugin for that, and you are at the mercy of someone updating the plugin so it works on the new version.
Hmm.
Sometimes some plugins don't even get that, and it's stuff that really should be vanilla, but isn't, even after 3 years of it being a plugin. um, when you're working really deep in the program, like trying to squeeze as much out of it as you can, like I am, you encounter these problems a lot more. Uh, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's not fun sometimes, but I still enjoy it because it's limiting.
Hmm. I mean, that seems to be the allure of developing for such archaic systems. Not
Yeah,
just the Game Boy, but we've talked to people who are making new Genesis games and NES, and you know that does seem to be a common thread. People like making new software precisely because everything's so limited.
yeah.
I, I suppose that's a very specific mindset to have. Like,
I think having limitations is kind of important if you're going to make a good game, just because like you can get more creative with it, right? And you're forced to in a lot of ways. Um, yeah, I mean, limitations do breed creativity. I don't remember who said that, but someone said that at some point, and I live by that.
I mean, that follows alongside necessity is the mother of invention.
Yeah.
At any rate, we should probably dive a bit deeper into the game itself,
All right.
which is called Children of Tides, spelt
Yes.
with a Y.
Yeah.
Like, is Tide the name of the main character here?
No. Tides is basically, think of it as like magic or mana. It's basically a reference to the mana series, label
Ah,
wise. But
okay.
Tides is like this game's version of magic, as mana is that series version of magic.
I get it. Yeah. And so, who is your avatar here?
Ruru, are you? Um, she is made entirely of magic and was um, conjured by the witch that you can converse with in the game.
So, is she like a construct, or is she an actual being
She
here?
she's like a familiar kind of, so like a witch's cat.
Hmm.
It's the best way I could put it.
Okay. So more than a golem, less than a fully actualized person. Curious.
Yeah, it's like magic in a human form, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that that does seem to be the case here.
Yeah.
And before we shift to elsewhere, I do want to remark on her sheer size. Like, because Ruru is a tall lady.
Uh,
That it's mainly because she's 2 sprites high, or like 2 apples tall, or however they quantify that. She's a lot bigger than a lot of protagonists are seen on the Game Boy.
yeah. One of the things that I really wanted to do in this game to distinguish it from other Game Boy Studio RPGs was just a different art style, because everyone's making Zelda clone or Pokemon looking clone, and I'm getting sick of it. I want some innovation. Just because it's on a retro system doesn't mean you have to entirely conform to old limitations. We have the technology, so
That is an interesting stance. Like, though not an invalid one. Like,
it also allows for more expression in the faces and the animations. So long as you're smart with how you um, put it together, and you're not reusing multiple frames in a bad way, and you're being conscious of the limitations, then you can get by pretty easily. Honestly, it's not that bad.
right. Though another thing to keep in mind are, because since this is GB Studio, this is being built for real Game Boy hardware, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. A thing to keep in mind, especially with like the Game Boy or other handhelds, is the size of the sprite relative to the screen. Actually, I had a conversation about this not too long ago. A problem with using a sprite this big can lead to cramping of the screen. So I'm wondering how you've gone about avoiding that potential issue.
Well, one of the things I've been working on is a subtle camera tilt, depending on what direction you're facing for a while. I'm not sure if I'll implement it or not. It all depends on how or if the specific plugin that I need for that to actually function properly is added back. But other than that, what I've done is various actors are, unloaded as they would normally be, right? But it's when you come into the close vicinity of an enemy that they pop out of the ground. And it gives you enough time to react, because they have to play their little animation and get prepared to attack you. It gives you time to work everything out. I'm making very sure that fields aren't too open, so that it's like just running across an empty plane, Lots of walls in the overworld to make it a little easier to tell where you are.
Yeah, those are the kind of considerations that have to be thought out that might not necessarily be readily apparent.
Yeah.
Like, likewise, was it difficult getting her running animation going? Considering she's built out of 2 different sprites, at the very least.
No, not really. I mean, with old versions of Game Boy Studio, like pre 2022, I want to say, I think it was, big sprites like this weren't really possible. I mean, you could kind of hack it together, but it was not ideal.
Yeah,
It would
the inconsistent
unsync and everything.
frames rate, you'd have one part going a little further than the other and be like, just
Yeah,
headache inducing.
yeah, it was pretty bad. um, but yeah, I was in I think beta 2 that they added that, and made things quite a bit easier.
Well, that's nice. Like, so I guess another thing to inquire about is, we've got her running in black and white here.
Yeah.
So are you targeting like a Game Boy aesthetic versus Game Boy Color, or can this game actually run on a Game Boy Color?
Well, I'm targeting DMG primarily because my previous game was originally supposed to be for that, but I kind of overdid it a little bit with a lot of the details in the game, and it became pretty much unplayable on a DMG. I mean, it'll run, but not very well. With this game, I'm trying to make it so that it runs well, and then in the future, if I am up for it, I will create a DX version that adds color and includes like bug fixes and whatever speed issues on the color hardware.
And presumably an extra dungeon that showcases color.
Perhaps I might do that.
Subtle wink and nod at the camera.
That's more a jab at Link's Awakening DX.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I suppose next I should ask, what's the narrative of Children of Tides? Why is Ruru doing the things she does and going the places she goes and fighting the evil ones or whatever?
So initially, I'm not gonna spoil anything like I did for my last game because I was pretty bad when it came to that. But in this game, at the start, at least, she's conjured by the witch to kind of explore around the island and uncover its mysteries. But as the game progresses, the goal is shifted to something more, and it is good. I hope. It's I can't really say that much without spoiling a lot of it because it some of the stuff only happens about halfway through the game, kind of like Link's Awakening. So.
Well, I suppose that is important to note. But
I'd say the story does go a bit deeper than Link's Awakening, though.
I mean, Link's Awakening story wasn't especially deep. I mean, it's a Zelda title. For all their pomp and circumstance, Zelda games aren't all that deep, if you will, in terms of like themes, and
they're mostly concerned with giving you a reason to get into the places where you're actually doing stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it's that Nintendo simplicity framework at hand there. Honestly, Link's Awakening was one of the deeper Zelda titles. They tend to do that with with the sequels and spin-offs. I've noticed, at least with Zelda. But I suppose that's neither here nor there. So, what sort of items will Ruru get that will help her in dungeons, or is this going to play out more like, say, Sword of Mana?
So, in this game, it's not so much items as it is magic spells, kind of like in Zelda 2. There are a couple items. So there's bottles and there's 3 masks that you can get that do things. But for the most part, the spells are fire, ice, explosion, something to raise your attack speed and power for a little while, hook shots, and something that I will not mention because it turns the game from something a little more simple to something a little more complex in the second half, and really unravels what you thought you knew about the world. I will say that.
Like, it's not a shmup level, is it?
No, God, no, it's still RPG. So, no, it's
Look,
a specific spell that changes how you see kind of everything, if that makes sense. Probably not, but
I mean, that makes it sound like it has to do with, like, illusions or mirrors or something like that.
yeah. Well, from the start of the game, there's 2 dimensions that you can go through, kind of like the dark world and light world, except it happens immediately in this game. And it's played around with that a lot, and it's like Link to the Past, but a little tougher. So,
And I suppose on that note, how big is this world, so to speak?
now if the character size was that of Link from Link's Awakening, it would probably be just over twice the size of that map. But since Ruru is the size of an elephant, the world is like, once you know how to navigate it and you've unlocked it, it is quite small. It's the things that are packed in it, though, that make it feel larger and like a more comprehensive puzzle that isn't just a giant waste of space. Tears that can.
Going Minish Cap with this.
Yes. There we go. That's a good example.
Like, and I suppose another question is, how far along is the game in terms of its development?
So most of the stuff that's been made so far is maps, right? And it was the same way that I developed the previous game. Pretty much maps came first, and that took about, I'd say, 70% of that game's development, and will probably take a similar amount for this one. The way I see it, you have to make a good game, you have to find a way to make true and false statements interesting. And if you think of the game as true and false statements, but engaging, that's all a game really is.
I was
right?
about to say, isn't that the whole point of gaming, is make true and false statements engaging?
Yeah. So, but since I think of it like that, it gives me the opportunity to kind of do what the Zelda team used to do with their games, and that is focus on high quality dungeons and stuff like that. Focus on making the game fun to explore and go around in without having to try to fix errors by filling it with copy paste jargon later on. Being able to think of it as making true and false fun to navigate and explore at the beginning makes it, I don't know, gives it an extra touch of heart that I feel modern Zelda really lacks.
And how much more development work would you say is required?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I forgot about that. I get off tangents sometimes. Sorry about that. I'd say about 50% of it is done by now, like time-wise. The light world, in particular, is about 80% done. The dark world has barely started, but since it's essentially the same map, that'll take less time or more, because I might have to screw around and tiled to try to line everything up properly so you don't clip through walls. So it might even take more time. I don't know. Haven't gotten there yet. But the dungeons themselves, I'd say, are about 60 to 70% done. And since the overworld maps are honestly quite a bit less involved than the dungeon areas, yeah, I'd say it's about 60%.
So, what are we looking at here? About a year, 2 years of development still to come?
Well, I'm hoping to get the game done by Q1 next year. You might release a little later than that. It all really depends on how things go.
I mean, that is development in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Like, and let me see here. So, have you lined up any sort of physical distribution for your game here yet?
Not yet. Not yet. But odds are that I'm probably going to do what I did last time and go with limited run. They did a really, really great job with the last game, and despite people frankly talking shit about them a lot, I honestly don't think it's entirely warranted. And they have
Like,
high quality stuff. So
it depends on the context. Like,
yeah, I mean, there's
what happened with
they've been working on fixing. I know.
Like, we know limited run, at least a part of them.
Yeah.
So but if we're talking about what happened with the 3DO games, that apparently came from IndieBox. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. But that's kind of beyond the parameters of what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Now, are you also planning to release Children of Tides on any of the modern digital distribution services or consoles?
I don't really like the idea of putting a game in a subscription or anything. I kind of hate subscriptions as they are. So I might put it on Switch. Might put it on Switch too. It all really depends, honestly, if someone's willing to port it, because I certainly don't know how. So
Yeah. At least if you're released on Steam, there is the option you can just bundle an emulator with it.
yeah, I don't think I'm going to be releasing anything on Steam again anytime soon.
That's valid.
Yeah, Steam is kind of shit, honestly.
Yeah.
Especially on the developer side. It's just, they don't care. They really don't. They don't care about you. They don't care about whether you actually get paid or not. They'll still sell the game.
Yeah, or like
And,
they'll just drown you off the front page with a bunch of EA titles. Wink,
exactly.
Well,
wink.
that was more EA's doing.
Yeah,
but
it's still they could have weighted them down more and let actual people's,
I
new
mean,
content, but
when
I get it.
like I mean, part of the problem is who is going to be more weighted down, EA or an indie.
Fair.
Hint, it's like that's a problem no matter what service you're talking about. EA is always going to be EA.
Especially if money changed hands for this, yeah.
Like, but are you planning on releasing this on itch.io?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Itch has been awesome. So
Okay. Right. So I think I've run through my questions. I'll see if my colleagues here have anything further for you.
Will this run on a standard Game Boy cartridge, or would it need like any special chips, or do you not know at this point?
It would probably just be a standard Game Boy cartridge. If I were to add like Rumble, then it would rumble. But I don't think I'm gonna add Rumble because that's absurd. So
fair, but at the same time, it's possible.
Then again, a friend of mine did add an entire LED light to his cartridge, and it lights up whenever the light lights up in the game. So
yeah. And
I'm trying to
go ahead, Adam.
I'm trying to remember if they added Rumble to any Game Boy Color game.
Yeah, I think they did.
I know there were a couple of Game Boy Advance games they had Rumble.
I know that the hardware exists to be able to use it. Like, you can send the signals it needs to run a Rumble motor. It's just I don't know if anybody actually used it.
Yeah.
Pokemon Pinball, I know it did, but it wasn't color exclusive.
Yeah.
I think did Tilt and Tumble also use it? I don't think it did it?
Yeah, Tilt and Tumble used the
gyro.
Used like a gyro.
It had a thing built into the controller. The original one, or
yeah.
Yeah, because I think with that one they ran out of pins, like data lines to use, so it was either gyro or Rumble.
Yeah. Apparently, it did use Rumble.
Oh, it did. Wow.
Wow. Okay, there we go.
Yeah. I figured they ran out of lines, but yeah. Do you know if you'll have like ROM available so people who have flashcards would be able to buy the official ROM from you, or?
Yeah, right. that would just be the itch release.
All right. And do you know if it works on any of the like flashcards, or is there any that doesn't work on to your knowledge?
I know that it works on EverDrive, X5. Probably works on every other EverDrive too. Not sure about other ones though.
All right. One of those things people just have to bring up to you if they break.
Yeah.
I mean, you
At the
laugh.
Q&A, it's like, no, it does not work on the Chinese bootleg. Stop asking.
I mean, you laugh, but we've had things like this happen before.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's it for my questions.
Right.
I think the stuff I was going to ask has been asked.
All right. Well, I want to thank you, Starr, for being with us here today and taking time out of your schedule to talk about Children of Tides.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's been good. All right. So once again, the game is Children of Tides. Bit far off from this moment in time, but where can people find the game once it is available?
Just on I actually have an itch page for it right now, but there's no game or demo there yet. If you just look up Children of Tides on itch, you'll find it.
Okay. All right, so be sure to do that today. Petty, play us to the next segment. All right. So, welcome to the topic of discussion for the week. Right. So, as mentioned at the top of the show, it is not E3 month.
Artist formerly known as E3.
The artists
or
follow.
the summer of games, Summer Game Fest. I'm like, I don't know if we've come up with an actual title for this. I'm like, but even though the E3 event died, June is still the time when all of the major video game news gets revealed.
And Adam just disconnected.
Oh god,
This happens from time to
E3.
time.
The dead E3 artist. He died in a tragic car accident. There was a big gang shootout and everything, and sadly E3 didn't make it. But if only he had his maple tree spudger, huh? He might have
There
made
we
it.
go. Oh, I do not know what happened to Adam. I hope he didn't have another power outage.
Oof.
That gets problematic, yeah.
Yeah, well, he lives in Florida, so it gets hot down there. Transformers get
Yeah.
hot, power goes out.
There's a really easy way to fix that problem. It's just just put some thermal paste on it. Some thermal paste and a couple little metal
Just-
bars, and
On
we're all good.
Florida?
Yeah.
Just squirt some conductanot on there.
Yeah, so like fuck with a weather changing whatever futuristic device thing, and just make it rain. Just make it rain gray goop from the sky.
You
Coat
know what, I'm
everything in
willing to
a
give it a
nice
shot.
film. Get it nice and evenly coated. And
Maybe
then a bunch
get
of
some maple syrup.
No, maple syrup. I feel like it would just probably just conduct the heat. Either that, or it would become kind of crystallized, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it crystallizes when it gets hot.
Yeah, fair.
It's like
Or just too dry.
Well, Florida is nothing if not moist.
that can be interpreted many ways.
I am aware what I said.
Man, I would love to be able to help with this, but I watched the State of Play thing, but that's about all I remember.
Yeah.
I think it's. I like to consider myself a realist when it comes to guessing what's going to be announced video game wise, and in the past couple of years, I've been kind of spot on with a lot of these things. So I'm not going to say I'm 100% on this. But here's my hot takes. Twilight Princess and Wind Waker are not releasing for Switch. I don't know why people think they are, because Nintendo had just, made HD versions of them with improvements last gen. So the likelihood of them doing it again for Switch, I don't think is very high. Maybe the next one,
Yeah.
because it's been enough time.
You don't need to have every Zelda game playable on the Switch.
Also,
as much
Exactly.
there
as
are
people would like to.
far more pertinent Wii U games still trapped in Wii U jail. Looking at you, Xenoblade Chronicles X.
Oh, God. Never played, but I've been meaning to get into.
I played and enjoyed it till my Wii U decided it didn't want to exist anymore.
Oh. Well, what did that thing have? Power PC and a SCSI drive, right? Good old Wii U, man.
Yep. I mean, it was
Good
probably
old
the
Wii
best
U.
Wii you'll ever have, but too bad nobody wanted it.
It's like it's an entire Wii, but with an extra letter after it. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So ahead of its time.
Yeah, like the only thing I'm kind of interested from the State of Play is the Astrobot game, because for a pack-in game for the PS5, the original was actually pretty alright.
Oh yeah, it was one of the only
And-
games
and-
I played on there
at
before
this
I
point-
sold my PS5 because there was nothing to play on it.
Yeah, and at this point, console mascot that has powers based on the various games on the thing is like an acceptable level of. It's not like a cynical reference anymore.
Yeah,
And also,
I think it is fair to assume Metroid
Hi,
Prime
Adam. How's it
4 might
going?
be teased again.
Yeah, not sure what happened there.
Ah, so
Florida happened.
you were not eaten by the void?
When did I drop?
You dropped a while ago.
Like
You've been
4,
gone. Yeah, you've been
4 or
gone for like
5
3 or
minutes.
4 minutes.
Wow. I'm not sure what happened there. Like,
We got about as far as it's summer and there used to be an E3, but now there isn't.
all right. Anyway, sorry about that.
It's fine. We
Technical
filled time
problems.
well.
Technical problems happen every now and again. Anyway, so as I was saying, it's the summer of not E3, and Sony kicked it off with the State of Play.
Adam disconnects again.
At least it didn't
Don't
do
joke
that
about
during
it,
the
guy.
interview.
Yeah, that's true.
We've
Yeah.
had it where the stream operator, has disconnected in the middle of an interview, and that's fun.
Oh god.
That's when we get really frantic. Anyway, so State of Play 2024. Sony has unveiled their slate for the year. Presumably,
Year in
you know,
air quotes.
I can't. Well, it's like I can't discount something else showing up later on.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
They certainly let people know what the things they're focusing on are.
yeah. And to that end, Sony devoted a mind-numbing amount of time to its hero shooter Concord.
Oh, you mean what if Overwatch but Guardians of the Galaxy?
Basically.
What if
I'm like-
Overwatch accept literally every Guardians of the Galaxy rip-off thing that there is? Even then, I'm pretty
Arlo
sure
had a
Guardians of the
really good
Galaxy-
video on that recently. Of like, okay, so is this like, can it get worse in terms of AAA things that are like super obviously just ripping off everything?
Well, you
Well,
could
okay.
add the whole every game releases broken thing to it. I'm sure that'll happen.
Right. But Concord is more endemic to everything that is wrong in the video game industry writ large.
They were also really
And-
trying to sell it as if it was part of an existing IP or something, which it isn't.
Well, I mean, that's marketing in general. Like, that's just selling the game. Let me explain where I'm coming from, because everyone's comparing this to Overwatch, and it's a hero shooter. Like, this is a game that is 6 or 7 years old in terms of its trend chasing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that about lines up to how long it takes to develop a AAA game in today's age.
Right.
I'm not sure if that's the actual development time on Concord here, but it wouldn't surprise me. To cite one example, Hellblade 2, that took 5 years of development.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not unusual for a AAA title.
Mm-hmm.
And technically speaking, Hellblade 2 isn't even AAA in terms of like its actual development size.
Yeah.
My point is, like, it just, it's taking the better part of a decade to build a AAA game these days.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, like, Sony announced that they had no major, new entries in their established IPs this year.
Yeah, no Spider-Man.
Yeah.
God of War is technically just getting re-released on PC. That's about it. No
Yeah,
Horizon.
Yeah. Also,
I feel?
Yeah.
I feel that a lot of developers right now are making games that they feel will sell the most,
Mm-hmm.
but not making games that actually make them happy to produce. Like, imagine wasting an entire 10th of your life on something that just exists to make money, right? And at the end of the day, everyone's going to forget about. I mean, it's like, how else do I explain this? I feel like the lack of DLC for Tears of the Kingdom, right? I like the rip on this game a lot. I hate it. I'll try not to for the most part, though. But I feel like the lack of DLC for that game isn't because they had done everything they wanted to, because there are very clearly a lot of parts in the game that are just unfinished, right?
Mhm.
I think it's just they stopped caring. I want to say. I think that they just
I would not presume to
tired of
say
it.
anything along those lines until we see the Nintendo Direct,
Yeah.
because they could be announcing Tears of the Kingdom DLC right then and there.
I
They did say
honest to
they weren't
God,
going to, but they could be lying.
honest to God, I mean, I really don't think they're going to do it. I think they're actually being honest about this because, I mean,
We'll
they've
s-
started developing Breath of the Wild since 2012, right?
We'll see, but
It's like
I don't want to
over
get
a
too.
decade working on the same game.
Mhm.
It has to get exhausting, right? I think it's
Right.
just, I think they're probably trying to move on to something else, but I think that they're unfortunately still going to be focused on money over actual quality of gameplay, which is unfortunate because if that is the case, and the next time that they show Zelda and it's just another, open world empty sandbox, I've kind of lost faith in the series, honestly, at this point.
Well, I'm like, that's a more nuanced debate about Zelda that we're not going to have,
Yeah.
because we're talking about Sony here.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, well,
I was
that's
just
kind of
kinda
the thing.
using
Is
it as
if you're worried about that about Nintendo is arguably
yeah,
of the main ones the one who is worried least about specifically what will make money.
yeah. Like, but getting back to Concord here, Concord is also part of Sony's live service push. I mean, they have not been shy about their intentions in this arena. You know, I think they mentioned at one point they had like about a dozen of these things in development at various places.
Mhm.
I do know that number's been pared back because, like, for example, Naughty Dog was working on a The Last of Us Factions live service game that got scrapped because Bungie didn't think it was up to snuff. Like,
Hilarious.
I'm like, or that's horrifying if Bungie thought their game wasn't up to snuff, which kind of tracks because Naughty Dog themselves was making that particular title, and they're not known for live service titles.
Mhm.
Like, but just to put a bow on Concord, because I don't want to spend too much more time on this particular thing.
God knows they spent too much on it.
Yes, I'm like getting the Suicide Squad extended demo sequence that just would not fucking end. Like, and I suppose that's another thing it had with Guardians of the Galaxy,
It just
even
Oh
though
wouldn't
that
yeah,
was
no,
end.
Square Enix.
the film was a straight up like
Not the
Guardians of the
film, the game.
Galaxy.
I'm talking about when Square Enix showed off Guardian of the Galaxy for like
Oh
20
yeah,
minutes.
yeah.
Like, that was this thing here. Anyway, this is coming out in late August for the PlayStation 5 and PC. I'm like, obviously Sony is going to be hoping that they get another Helldivers 2. I'm like, I don't think Concord's going to be the game.
Yeah.
In fact, like, Concord probably going to be a future subject of either death of the game or what happened, possibly both.
Yeah, probably
Like,
Here's the
more than
thing:
look,
likely
I
both.
don't think a major corporation is capable institutionally of understanding the actual appeal of Helldivers 2.
Oh yeah.
If they understood it, they would have to destroy themselves.
Lord knows Sony clearly doesn't, because they tried to implement fucking PlayStation accounts to it.
So that's actually a good segue to Sony's PC announcements here, because at the State of Play, they laid out God of War Ragnarok and Until Dawn, remastered edition, coming to the PC September 19th, 2024. And they announced an actual release date. No, they didn't for Until Dawn. But the bigger thing in regards to both here is Sony is going to be requiring the PSN a PSN account for both of these. And okay, this is just getting baffling here, because and I think it's just, now it's becoming a matter of control versus spite.
It has to be, because there's no reason for Ragnarok or Until Dawn to need PlayStation Network IDs.
Yeah, because these are both single player only titles.
Yeah. Like, I could see if they
the only thing they're going to get out of them is, like, your information about how you're using their product or something. And honestly, it's probably slightly disturbing if forcing every player to give them that information is more valuable to them than being able to sell the game in the vast majority of countries.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, and I don't think Sony really understands how spiteful the audience trying to battle here is. Like, and also what platform we're talking about here. Motherfuckers, like, they will invent mods to get rid of the PSN in your fucking games. Like, you want to throw this gauntlet down?
The only problem,
you're gonna lose,
is because it requires it, they can't sell it in countries that don't have PSN access.
Yeah.
So it's still, they're losing out on, like, what did we say, roughly 60% of
people will
world?
pirate it and then mod the thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, all they're literally doing is losing out on legitimate sales because they want control.
Yeah. I'm like, and so on that note, Sony's other headliner question mark is Astrobot,
which was like the only game that didn't seem embarrassed to be a game rather than a movie.
Well, it's
we talked about this a little bit while you were off screen. Honestly, Astrobot was like refreshingly a game.
Right.
Well, yeah, Astrobot isn't trying to be, something from Naughty Dog or Gorilla. I'm like, it's from Team Asobi. So,
translator's note: Asobi means play.
I will stab you in the eye.
I'll help.
But it's also, Astrobot is an established brand. It's never been this pushed before.
Yeah. You basically, after you get your console, you're basically just firing up Astrobot whenever you buy a used PlayStation controller to make sure everything works.
Also, you had Astrobot's not the Playroom. I'm trying to remember their VR game.
Playroom.
Yeah, there was a VR one, but nobody remembers that.
That, unless you actually had a PlayStation VR headset.
Yeah.
Because that was arguably the best game to come out for that platform. That was exclusive to the PlayStation VR experience. Because, once again, that was from Team Asobi. And apparently it made proper use of the VR and everything. Like, people swear by it who played it, basically. Like, it's just, this is kind of Astrobot's shot at the big time
Yeah.
because
This is no longer a pack-in title. This is an actual game.
it's not just an actual game. It's not it's not being used in a Nintendo fashion, for lack of a better term. Like Nintendo will often have a title alongside some sort of gimmick.
Mhm.
Anything from Kirby's Tilt and Tumble to Wii Sports.
To Pikmin, the list
yeah.
goes on.
Yeah, Astrobot prior to this, very much Sony's gimmick series to display, showcase something.
Yeah.
This time around, no, like they're playing it straight. Like Astrobot's full on title, full on, AAA level content. Like, it's actually kind of surprising and terrifying. Because beforehand, like Astrobot hasn't been asked to perform all that much in terms of expectations here.
Mm-hmm.
So I am wondering what Sony's expectations for Astrobot are, because like Astrobot isn't doing God of War or Spider-Man or Last of Us numbers here.
Oh, I thought I thought you were going to say it isn't doing those, except that I was going to joke, except for when he dresses up as them.
Basically, I don't want Astrobot to become the next Knack.
Yeah.
And I don't want, and I don't want Team Asobi to be the next scrapped PlayStation studio.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I don't know. Like, I don't know if Sony's lining this up to be the big game of the summer.
Yeah, it was coming out in September, so I guess
Yeah.
probably game of the fall.
Fall, like, because like they like Sony themselves didn't really announce anything else.
Yeah. Like there's Dynasty Warrior
like,
Origins, which
well,
cool.
no. Like, I'm talking about in terms of their first party. Yeah. Because they got Astrobot and they got Concord and they got Until Dawn remastered.
Wait, who's
for the
Infinity
PlayStation?
Nikki from? Isn't that Sony?
No, Epic Mickey redrawn.
No,
That's
Infinity Nikki.
Oh, Infinity Nikki. Let me see.
Yeah, that was the other game that looked a little bit different.
Infinity Nikki. Who is putting this out?
That's what I'm wondering.
I'm looking it up. I'm looking it up. But I don't think that was PlayStation.
Infold Games?
Yeah, Infold Games.
Is the studio, at least?
Yeah. Or at least they're the developer.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if PlayStation is publishing that.
Publisher Paper Games.
No wonder.
Although that's from Google, so you know.
Well, like if PlayStation were Sony were publishing it, it'd come up.
Yeah.
Like I said, Sony had heavy hitters at this show. It's just it was third party stuff by and large because Dynasty Warrior Origins, which I think is the first proper Dynasty Warriors game we've had since 9.
In the US, maybe.
Well, no, like we've had other. We've certainly had other
Muso games, titles, but not actual.
Yeah, not
Dynasty Warriors.
Although doing an Origins game for what is essentially action historical fiction is kind of humorous, but
silent English nerd.
wouldn't this more? This would be more Chinese literature, but
Fair.
anyway,
I said historical fiction. It's
Yeah. Anyway.
based
anyway.
on real people is the thing.
Yes. Though, let's be honest, Dynasty Warriors is about as far away from
Oh
that.
no, they're highly fictionalized.
Yeah. Anyway, other mega franchises shown off were Monster Hunter.
I'll wait
Arguably,
for that.
arguably this was the biggest title at the show.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the open world one that I guess hadn't actually come out yet.
This is basically World 2. This is the jump we have been waiting for.
Yeah, it's Monster Hunter Wilds.
Yeah. They can call it Wilds all they want. I'm calling it World 2, and they can't fucking stop me.
I suppose not. I'm like, and the game had been announced prior to this, but this was its on-screen debut. The first time we've seen game footage.
Yeah, they just had a cinematic at TGS.
Yeah, I'm like, another supposed heavy hitter that was shown, or at least something that's. Oh God, I'm not sure what the right word to use, but the Silent Hill 2 remake was also here. Look, there's just been a lot of conversation and chatter around Silent Hill 2 because Silent Hill 2, is the most beloved of the Silent Hill games. Not the best selling, but certainly the most critically acclaimed. And Silent Hill 2 is being helmed by Bloober Team.
Silent Hill 2 is the one that if you try and play it on enhanced hardware, you don't get as good an effect as you do playing on original because of the fog effects and stuff, right?
I think the first two both had that a little bit. The more concerning thing is that Silent Hill 2 is arguably the most mental health intensive Silent Hill game, and Bloober Team has a horrific history when dealing with that kind of thing.
Yeah, the medium wasn't great,
and a lot of their character designs show character design updates show not amazing understanding of the purposes of some of the characters.
That being said, I think way too much of the onus is being placed on Bloober Team here, because keep in mind, yeah, they're the developer, but Konami is the one going to be calling the shot.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, it's like
they could be more hands on if they cared about it.
Yeah,
they probably the thing is, yeah, it's Konami's game.
Yeah.
So if something goes wrong, it might not Bloober Team is probably going to get the blame, but this came up with the last trailer, and some other things that Bloober Team has placed the blame on Konami for, and rightly so. One of the reactions to one of the previous trailers was fairly negative because it was cut very actiony. And people were blaming Bloober Team on that, and Bloober Team had to point out that Konami was the ones who cut the trailer, or they were the ones who ordered the trailer cut that way specifically, because they're the publisher, they're the ones who make that kind of choice.
Yeah,
if Bloober Team were publishing this game, then yeah, you could 100% blame them for something. In the case of what might go wrong with Silent Hill 2, something could be wrong at the Bloober Team level. Something could be wrong at the Konami level.
Something could be wrong at both levels.
Yeah, it's like, and keep in mind, yeah, Konami has been fucking up Silent Hill since arguably, 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 2013. 20 Homecoming.
I was about to say
Maybe
since post Silent Hill 2's official original release.
Arguably Silent Hill 4, like even that one's contentious.
Yeah.
Hey guys,
But
sorry about this. My headache's getting pretty bad. I think I gotta go.
Yeah.
Oh,
we're
no,
about
Yes,
to
feel
fine.
free to leave. You didn't even have to stay for the topic of discussion. But
Okay.
we
I
appreciate
just
that
thought
you did.
I thought
Yeah.
it would be rude if I did, but
No, it's fine. I hope
It's
you
fine.
feel better. Headaches
Thank
suck.
you.
Speaking of which, we should probably wrap this up because it's
Yeah.
10:45. Sony had other things, but those were the major notes I wanted to hit upon.
Mhm.
And with that in mind, we segue to the ending spiel, i.e., the week ahead. We do have a new episode of MSP presumably happening unless Mac cancels for some reason. It's inside the studio, so he might have a headache,
Okay.
and that's happened before.
He is currently chatting in the private section of the Discord, so theoretically we are a go.
Okay. So with that in mind, coming up on Friday, June 7th, we'll be having Juho Kurokoski of Horsefly Games. We'll be talking about Hyperdrive In. So look for that. And coming up on Sunday reviews, we'll be having reviews of Tell Me Your Story, 99 Moves, Legends of Dionysus, and A Fistful of Gun. So until next time, I shall wish you good gaming.